Welcome to MTN Outdoors.
Welcome everybody to this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. I'm once again your guide, Andy Curtis, and we have a very special episode for you today because we are here in Lincoln, Montana. Are we here to talk about grizzly bears? Well, not exactly. We are going to talk about grizzly bears in today's episode, and specifically how they're showing up in some spots here in Montana that they haven't been seen in a very long time. Are we here to talk about fly fishing? Good guess, but no. We will talk about fly fishing later and how it's helping our veterans heal, but that's not why we're in Lincoln right now. We're in Lincoln to talk about art. And no, not your fancy East Coast art, something you can't touch, hanging behind glass. We're talking about true Montana art. Art means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and so do tools. For example, a chainsaw. Maybe to you, this is something that just destroys or inspires movie franchises. But in the right skilled hands, this can create things of beauty. Well, apparently that's not me, but these guys here behind me are incredible artists, very skilled with this chainsaw, and they're doing what they love all weekend long here in Lincoln, and they're doing it for a good cause. This may sound like chaos, but beneath the noise and all the sawdust, something is taking shape. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all these carvers from across the Northwest will be here in the parking lot of Lambkin's, putting on quite a show and selling off their pieces to raise money for the Sam's Hope Foundation, which helps families battling childhood cancer and others in need in the Lincoln community. Now, this is the first year of the event, and organizer Valerie Clark told me they didn't know what to expect. But not surprisingly, the Lincoln community jumped at the chance to help sponsor and bring in these lumberjacks.
We're feeding them every day. They've helped us to pay for their gas to come in and their lodging. Everybody that you see on this street is basically sponsored, so the community just really came together.
And it's not just the Lincoln community. This brotherhood of artists is just as tight-knit. And that's where Valerie's husband comes in.
Yeah, my name's Lewis Clark.
Yes, that is his real name. We checked. He's a custom wood carver here in Lincoln and knows a lot of these guys from competitions.
They go from weekend to weekend at different competitions, and so you invite one, they all wanted to come.
But we just wanted to give back. That's the main thing, because the good Lord blessed me with a good paying job, you know, and I get to do what I love. And I meet some great people. All these carvers, I know them all, they're great people, and they do phenomenal work.
Like Anthony Robinson from Washington, who's relatively new to this group, but couldn't turn down the chance to bring his talent to town.
I heard the story about the Sam's Hope Foundation, and I was invited by them in Ronan, met the whole gang from over here, and just really cool people.
Chainsaw is charity and community. I'd say that's a pretty good way to sum up a weekend here in Montana. Just ask Anthony.
Love it, love it. Oh my gosh, you know, I mean, I love Washington, but I love the people out here. They're so cool. I think everybody in Montana is has the attitude of we can do it, whatever it is, we're gonna accomplish it, you know.
We have a lot more information about the Sam's Hope Foundation on our website, ktvh.com. And the next time you head out into the woods, maybe to grab a log for your next chainsaw art piece, make sure you take some bear spray with you, because grizzlies are now popping up in parts of the state where they haven't been seen in a very long time. MTN's Jackie Coffin has our details.
It was just last week I was out here in the Pryor Mountains telling you about expanded recreation opportunities. Well, it turns out it's more than just people expanding in the Pryors. Wildlife managers say they've confirmed the first spotting of a grizzly bear in these mountains since the 1800s.
Beware of bear. Signs we're used to seeing in the Beartooths or near Yellowstone Park, but not in the Pryor Mountains.
Born and raised here my whole life, I don't believe in my lifetime that's ever been any sighting of a grizzly bear in the Pryors.
Crisscrossing National Forest, BLM, the Crow Reservation in the Montana-Wyoming border, the Pryors sit about 30 miles as the crow flies or the bear walks south of Billings. But FWP is keeping tight-lipped about exactly where the Grizz was spotted.
We are not going to release more specific information on where in the Pryors it's at.
FWP Region 5 spokesperson Chrissy Webb says the agency won't release the photo that allowed wildlife managers to confirm the bear was a grizzly, and also won't say if it was spotted near trails or recreation areas.
Again, we are respecting the wishes of the person who initially sent in this photograph and the information.
The Pryors are just a short drive away from Bridger, and Doug Judkins of the Bridger Fur Company knows them well. He is surprised but not too shocked to hear grizzlies have moved close to town.
Who knows where? We don't know if it's an adult. We don't know if it's a yearling. We don't know what it is.
Grizzly populations continue to rebound and expand across Montana. Several have been spotted in recent years in and around Red Lodge.
Right there in between the trees.
And even on the plains of northern Montana near Great Falls.
Do you see that? He just ran through our yard.
I mean, if you look back, like to the Lewis and Clark journals, we saw grizzly bear population at that time was pretty expansive across the state of Montana.
What the grizzly population looks like in the Pryors moving forward is unknown.
It is way too early to make any speculation.
But Webb says the point is to make every Montanan bear aware, even in the Pryors.
If you're going there to recreate, you better be darn careful.
In Bridger, Jackie Coffin, MTN News.
In other wild animal news, an Arizona woman was gored by a bison in Yellowstone National Park here recently. This latest accident happened near Lake Lodge on the north side of Yellowstone Lake as the woman was walking in a field with a friend. Now, the Park Service says the two people saw two bison and turned to walk away when one of the bison charged the woman and gored her, causing some pretty significant injuries to her chest and abdomen. She was taken by helicopter to the Eastern Idaho Medical Center. As of this week, her current condition is unknown, but the Park Service says it's also unknown just how close the people got to the animal, adding that the incident is still under investigation. And Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks is now looking for a little bit of your input on how they should move forward with developing shooting ranges here in the state. And FWP recently launched a shooting range program that would ultimately develop FWP-administered ranges for everything from archery to pistol, rifle, shotgun trap, and even skeet shooting. Now, a priority is to develop range facilities near major population areas, including ranges that could be used for competitions, tournaments, and even hunter education. Now, two recent projects include a new archery range at Lone Pine State Park near Kalispell and some improvements to the archery range near Glendive. FWP opened an online survey to help them gather information, and completing this survey only takes about 10 minutes, so maybe check it out after this episode. And trust me, you're not going to want to go anywhere just yet because it's time for this week's MTN Outdoors trivia question. And oh, Dolly, have we got a good one for you today. Sticking with the theme of Yellowstone National Park safety, get your pencil and paper ready because here we go. Now, according to Yellowstone National Park officials, what is the recommended distance that tourists should stay away from wild animals in the park? Is it A, 25 yards, B, 30 yards, or C, 50 yards? All right, think long and hard about this one, folks, and make sure you keep a safe distance away from your remote as we head into the break, because we'll have your answer when we come back.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, and thanks for sticking around with us for this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. I'm Andy Curtis, and just before the break, I asked you this week's MTN Outdoors trivia question. And because I'm such a nice guy, just in case you missed it, here it is one more time. According to Yellowstone National Park officials, what is the recommended distance that tourists should stay away from wild animals in the park? Is it A, 25 yards, B, 30 yards, or C, 50 yards? Okay, I do need to come clean about something before I tell you the answer. This week is kind of a trick question. Now, if you picked A, 25 yards, you are absolutely right, but that is only a little bit of the answer. Now, according to park officials, you should stay at least 25 yards away from large animals like bison or elk, but you should stay 100 yards away from those large carnivores like bears and wolves. So if you're keeping track of your answers at home and you picked B or C, you can count both of them. All three answers are correct this week. So congratulations. Everybody's going home with a trophy today. Well, up on the other side of the state, they're trying to answer some questions of their own right now because Flathead Lake is seeing some historically low water levels. So that's where we find our Maritza Giorgio, who is talking to residents and business owners and finding out that low water levels aren't just a problem for boaters and anglers.
I'm one of the few people that have my boat in. Most of my neighbors pulled theirs. They never pull their boats ever till the end of August or mid-September.
But that's the reality this year for many boat owners on northwest Montana's pristine Flathead Lake, the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi.
This is just a beautiful lake. It's wonderful living here.
The water is the lifeblood of us as tribal people. You can't get more important than that. And our relationship with the water is paramount. Without it, it is life for us. Without it, we're not here.
And now that water is down, almost 2 feet below what's considered full pool. That's never happened during the summer months since the lake's SKQ hydroelectric dam was built on the southwest end in 1930. It's owned by Energy Keepers, a corporation of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, which generates electricity for parts of Montana and elsewhere.
We have never been this low in the period of record for water supply coming into the lake, ever.
Some frustrated locals have asked if the water could have been managed better through the dam and the amount of water released from the lake. Operators say it's not about the water being let out, but a lack of water coming in because of drought and changing climate conditions.
I can't create water. We can only do what we can do with the water that's coming.
Water management is going to define the West for better or for worse because we are in an arid to semi-arid climate, this whole side of the continent.
The license from the federal government requires SKQ Dam to release a minimum amount of water downstream for power generation, flooding, and species protection. SKQ operators say they went to near minimum outflows back in March, but it wasn't enough to keep levels up.
Every single month, the water supply forecast has come in below average, except for May.
A dry winter followed by an extremely warm May meant a rapid melt of snowpack all at once. Nobel Prize-winning climate change expert Steve Running predicted decades ago what's happening now.
These are literally the same topics that 25 years ago I was saying are on their way. And sure enough, they're here. These aren't surprises.
Now, SKQ dam operators say it's a zero-sum game. The lowest amount of water that can be released from the lake is more than what's coming in naturally through rain and snowmelt.
It's a big deal. And so from that perspective, we have to think, well, this is the tip of the iceberg.
It's a problem we've seen elsewhere in the West. Lake Mead, which supplies most of the water used in the Las Vegas Valley, fell to record lows this time last year. At Flathead, the issue is more than just having a lake for Montanans to boat on.
So for us, it's generation. We're far below average. In the entire region, hydropower is about 60% of what we're normally generating this time of year for electricity.
Downstream, low flows are also hard on native fish. It's impacting farmers who rely on the water for irrigation. There's also economic impacts of a shrinking lake, with local officials estimating Flathead generates hundreds of millions of dollars in recreational spending.
It's unfortunate, and I'm sure it's hurting some businesses around here.
3 months out of the year is all of our business. And so when we start seeing it slow down just because of the water level, that's a big bummer for, everybody.
This lakeside restaurant may fare better than others because it has a floating dock that can adjust to lower water levels.
floating docks are awesome to have in this situation.
Boaters can't dock at other restaurants. Rentals are slow and fuel sales are way down after so many residents pulled their boats from the water. A push by local politicians to add more water from the Hungry Horse Reservoir upstream was denied, with the management team citing concerns over impacts on fish and water levels next year. As it stands, people who want to recreate on Flathead Lake may need to make some adjustments.
You can only make the best of it because it's, you know, nothing that any of us can control, but try to stay positive and keep hoping people get out on the lake and come here.
But it's still a beautiful lake. I don't think we lose that. I think we lose this luxury of having the lake at full pool through the entirety of the summer. You know, that's a luxury that's been afforded to us since the dam was built.
Maritza Giorgio, Scripps News, Flathead Lake.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Hey, welcome back everybody, and thank you for sticking around for this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. I'm once again your guide, Andy Curtis, and I hate to be the one to break this bad news to you, but we're dealing with a little fish population problem right now here in Montana, and FWP could really use your help. MTN's Chet Lehman shows us how.
The Jefferson River Basin, Beaverhead, Big Hole, and Ruby have had an ongoing problem with declining fish numbers. The Montana Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks is working to try to figure out why.
Fish health does play a role in that, and so one of the things that we're hoping to do is gather more information and involve the public in that process.
There's just a handful of fish biologists to patrol the 298 miles of those 3 rivers. But count the number of anglers on those rivers, and you now have hundreds of built-in observers.
You can do it right from your phone, and it's going to ask for some information. Most importantly, what we're looking for is the location, the date, and then any photos that people can upload.
This will allow FWP to pinpoint potential problem areas. That can lead to discovery of potential problems, which can ultimately lead to solutions. So in reality, Sick Fish Portal can ultimately lead to Healthy Fish River System.
We can't be everywhere at once. We try to, spend as much time in the field as we can, but there's a lot of area to cover in southwest Montana. So this is one way for people to kind of be the eyes and ears for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks wherever's needed.
Grab your phone and remember this simple address. The rest is pretty simple.
Yeah, sickfish.mt.gov is the website address. You can get to it from your mobile phone, from your office, wherever, and really good way to provides a direct line for people to the department and providing real-time information on what they're seeing in the field.
Above the Jefferson River Basin, south of Whitehall, Chet Lehman, MTN News.
Our service members and veterans have made many sacrifices that a lot of us don't understand or even take for granted. Well, here in Montana, there's an organization that is giving something back for our men and women who have served our country.
Life doesn't, the tough aspects of daily life don't end once you get back from your deployment. You still got the stress of daily life, whether it's family stuff, work-related stuff, whatever, and fishing's something I've just carried with me through my entire life. And whatever's going on in life that might be difficult, if I can get some time to get out on the water and just be with friends, be with good people, it'll solve most problems.
Mending Waters have helped so many personnel returning from deployments. They are dedicated to the physical and emotional rehabilitation of active military personnel and veterans through fly fishing.
We're out here to fly fish, but really it's more than that. It's this kind of adventure really is just a thing to help veterans kind of slow down, take a break, get a grip on life. It's just one of those things that helps you to relax, find a little bit of peace.
Service members often encounter difficulties in transitioning back to a non-combat life.
It's just something that helps me find peace, right? And there's a rhythm and a flow to fly fishing that I just find very relaxing. And so for me, it's definitely a mental health thing. It just helps me be in a calmer place.
These men volunteer their time to help our service members and veterans unwind and share their stories.
Well, it kind of brings a kind of gets me emotional actually. Listening to their stories and then watching them decompress. Is that a good word?
Great word.
The sound of water. I swear to God, you can see the angst coming out of their bodies, and it makes me happy to watch that.
And is there a story that you've had over the years that's really touched your heart?
Yes, I do, and it was actually on this river, on Hound Creek. A guy I fished with all day, and he sat me down and explained his situation. He was a pilot, and a helicopter pilot, and he got shot down, and a couple people perished on his machine, and he can't let that go. I sat there and cried with the guy for an hour. It just touched me terribly. I don't know how to explain that. And I don't know why he carries that blame. I mean, if your machine's not functioning and you take it down, it's an act of God, isn't it? I don't know, but I'll never forget that. And we were right upstream here, sitting in the shade.
And how was he by the end of the day?
He was freaking happy. He was. It was like he cleansed himself. He got that stuff out, and he was happy and calm, and I hope that continued for him.
These veterans began to open up and forget about the stress of deployment, family life, and work. They started to enjoy themselves as they walked downstream and began to fish.
I owe those guys a debt of gratitude. I get to do stuff like this because of what they've done for me. It's a payback. Maybe not a big payback, but I enjoy doing it.
You know, the big thing I'd like to say to Mending Waters is just thank you. I really appreciate it. You know, these guys aren't veterans, but they go out of their way to put on something for veterans, which is really nice.
From any fishing spot here in Montana, I'm Paul Sanchez for MTN News.
All right, everybody, that should just about do it for us here this week at MTN Outdoors. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me. And remember, as you're outside enjoying the great outdoors here in Montana, Lincoln, Libby, Helena, anywhere in this great state of ours, send me a photo to andy.curtis@ktvh.com. If you're out there hiking, camping, maybe you've got chainsaw art you want to show off, send me a photo and you could end up at the end of a future episode. Just like these folks, it's time for our MTN Outdoors brag board. And this picture comes to us from Amy Coates, finding a great way to beat this brutal heat this week. Doing a little floating on the Moe. And bonus points for that cool life jacket. Thanks for the pictures, Amy. Please keep them coming. All right, thanks again, everybody, for spending some time with us. And until next week, stay safe. And remember, if they don't find you handsome, they should at least find you covered in sawdust.